And we're going live. Awesome. I'll check and see who is joining us.
Oh, we're already there.
We're going live.
Who is that? Is there two of you?
You didn't know?
Who there? Who there?
Awesome. Okay. Whew. Again, today has been just a profound day of understandings, revelations, integrations, and wisdom. And it is my pleasure and honor to be here with each and every one of you. Gabo, welcome. Paul, Kelsey, Amira, Anson, and Ali. It is, that's the only thing that's coming out at this point. After we've been in an intense 15, 16 hours so far. It might be more than that.
Has it been?
Yeah.
I'd say longer than that. The past 24 hours been a journey.
Yeah.
And then waking up having a spiritual hangover, we were in a journey, we just did it some type of medicine journey or something. Whoa.
This is a consciousness marathon, and again, it's an honor to be hosting. Today, at this moment, we are tapping into the subject of ancient technology and modern distractions. Just really bringing to the surface what has been buried within us, and how we can actually regain access to that ancient technology that is already here. And it's we don't need an iPhone 12 or iPhone 50. There's something more profound that's already present. And I'd love to unlock that with each and every one of you. Something you want to say there?
I was about to say iPhone Infinity.
Well, there's an iPhone Infinity in there too. One of my mentors had said that phones actually don't work without consciousness. So it's something to, really be present to. If we're not making that connection before we try to make the connection, it ain't gonna work.
Do you feel like going from an iPhone to a Wii phone?
Oh.
Wow. Yes. That's what Dell's all about.
We're here!
Dell's arrived. Okay.
Man, that's profound. I gotta go meditate now.
Right. Speaking of which, Gabo, is that one of the ancient technologies that you deferred to?
When it comes to technology, we're so used to this idea of, it's only human to think human, right? So we think that technology is what we have developed right now, all this material, artificial technology that we call. And I think the reconnection that we're making right now is inevitable, of course, because we know we're in a process that is, clockwork at this point. But also something that the ancients knew, our technology for even traveling, it's in us. And I forgot who I was listening to today who said, if you want to get from point A to point B, you take a plane. Why do you take a plane? You can, if you understand that you are everything, you are there already, So in terms of consciousness, the inevitable part that comes into the technology that we are is our consciousness itself, right? And the thing that I was thinking about when I was joining this was the pyramids themselves, right? This is what we think as humans. We wonder how the pyramids were built. So we go into this whole idea of, there were huge bricks that were moved this way, or, the way we want to think. But when you get into the law of one and Ra explaining how the pyramids were built, you understand that consciousness is something that we already play with. We already manipulate through imagination and everything else, right? But at different levels of consciousness, when we go in our evolution as spirits, we naturally gain this let's call them powers, because for us, they look like superpowers, but is manipulating matter in the way that we kind of know telekinesis work. But in the higher consciousness, it's not like you manipulate. Manipulation is probably a bad word, but it's that you communicate with matter, and then you tell matter what to do. That's how the pyramids were built, according to Ra and the Law of One. And it was just, a communication between matter and the will of the consciousness. And, I think that's a very profound way to know what awaits us in the fourth density consciousness that we are already in, but we're not, aware of it. And we're not working towards that because we're still in the material, separation consciousness that we're living right now. So I think that's a pretty good, idea for us to know, like, what awaits us in the power that we have as humans and as co-creators of the reality that we're living in. And of course, now we're building a new reality. We have to. There's no other choice. In fact, this is the only choice. And I'll talk about that more in my segment later on.
Awesome. We got a preview. Thank you.
Let's go.
I'm directing this towards Kelsey, but anyone jump in at any time. And I'm talking to Kelsey because right now she's living in a tiny home, and she's got the garden outside, like fully, and not only sustainable but regenerative life going on there. And I'd love to hear how this is resonating with you, in particular, like, to the distractions, because it's like you have none right now.
Thank you so much. Yeah, hello everyone. Speaking of me living in this rural environment, I'm praying that my technological connection is strong, because sometimes it goes in and out this time of night. There still are plenty of distractions at our fingertips with the internet. I feel it's kind of a rabbit hole that we could all go down with how inundated we are with everything, like entertainment in general, like technological entertainment. But I feel really grateful and really blessed that my focus and my compass is a lot about every moment present awareness and connection with nature, and really an emphasis on the elements. So like ancient technologies being everything that's already within us, that's always been within us from the beginning of humankind, from the beginning of the earth, these four fundamental elements of air, so the breath, sound, our ability to be in silence or generating sound through music first and foremost, and then having the word and the language be secondary. And then also fire, like our ability to cultivate fire and cook with it, and have warmth when we need warmth, and just these basic awarenesses. And then connecting with water around us, finding our local source of water, and giving thanks when the rains come, or if we have running water in our home, which for me has been like a journey in and of itself, like touch and go with having fully functioning running water, and catching rain to store it, and purifying water through carbon or different filtration systems that we can design. There's so much ancient technology that we've been working with that mimics nature and the earth, and then the earth in and of itself as a technology, nature, sacred geometry, the patterns of the seasons, all of these things. Like I think of movement in the body as an ancient technology as well, and emulating animals, like spreading our arms open and like moving like a bird, or embodying like a mountain, and creating, like we could look at yoga, like different asanas, but that's just one culture of many that has teachings about movement and alignment of the body. And if we're just present in and of ourselves in our physical form with all of these elements that are within us, and then we're seeing them in nature, that's where my ancient technology guides me, to think of the purity of things that have never changed from the beginning, and what we have now. Because with modern distractions, it's like this is all new, and it's serving a purpose for sure. Here we are today. I'm so grateful to be here and be connecting and meeting each one of you and listening to what you have to say and activating my consciousness and evolving together by co-creating and weaving our ideas and our consciousness. And then also it's like a little bit here and a lot more in nature, you know, like coming back to nature and focusing on growing seeds and seeing the time that we are in this world today. It's like something that's been really present on my mind is how can we be more sovereign and more interdependent instead of codependent, interdependent on our natural environment and what we have where we are right now. How can we maximize what we need to receive and also give to support others by first giving of our time, focus, energy, and resources to things that will provide what we actually need, not so much, you know, like superficial material things or even technology. Like that's secondary for me. I'm like, okay, if the world's gonna go in a whole nother direction, we lose the internet and computers and cell phones, I'm good. Like I already know what I need to know. And at this point, it's just like, how can I inspire and communicate and educate people to take that power back into their own hands, so we're not codependent, but rather interdependent and connected to our local community, so that the ones who have the wisdom how to grow food and how to utilize and capture the resources and direct, like the natural elements, and direct them in a way that can give us what we need to survive and thrive. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling about that. Thank you for speaking to my lifestyle. I'm getting better every day. Just simplification, I think, is key. And knowing that we have everything that we ever need already within and already all around us. It's just a matter of bringing our awareness to abundance, to the abundance that is, and knowing that that's not outside somewhere else. It's here where we are. We just need to cultivate and co-create.
Absolutely.
So thank you for allowing me to share.
Yeah, the abundance that we are, absolutely. And thank you for sharing in the way that you did. I mean, what you said about you know, using our sound as a tool, and music first and foremost, and language second. That immediately made me think of you, Paul. You know, do you actually view your music, you know, that you create and that you produce, as a technology?
Yeah, so this is an interesting, I was thinking about this. So I'm sort of interested in the metaphysical myself. So that was very physical. Like, I love that. Obviously, we're living in a physical world. For me, I'm a little bit more focused on metaphysical. And metaphysical are the things that you can't really see, with the the natural sort of embodiment, if you will. And we have to sort of work at sort of seeing with another perspective, I think. So for me, I always like to see what's here, like above me, this way. So this is a big space, and I like to just explain that I like to open the space up and bring in the divine. So many people meditate out. For me, I bring in. It's sort of I always say that prayer you can sort of pray to, and then you receive through meditation, in my opinion. That's sort of my space anyways. So the thing that I believe that for me, music and vibration, or sacred technology, is a vibrational technology, because it's an energy. So our soul, when we speak or sing, we actually are communicating with a vibration or a frequency, much like a bird, in a frequency or a resonance. So I feel very much that my greatest sort of gift, if you will, and my answer to God really, is to sort of share through a sound technology. So I think that everything is energy. I think we're sort of in that space of decoding energy right now. You know, in a house, you can't really see the energy, but you plug in and it happens. So for me, I really like to sort of look at myself with the divine that way. So to plug into source and bring sort of that vibration through me. And really all of my music is actually an ascension guide from a healing perspective for the last 9 years. So I have 7 albums, and each song sort of takes the listener through an emotional journey to have support and worth from the soul within. And what's really interesting is that when you start actually sort of looking at the results of what's going on from this perspective, there are so many amplifications going on with people feeling their self-worth. And I think the most important part right now for me in my work is to make sure that people feel that they are worthy to be here, and that they have that self-worth and that divinity within. Because once you have that, then your operating system totally shifts. And I can start to see sort of those results in the world from what I do for the last 9 years. And what's really cool is it connects other people with that same frequency. and it just keeps blooming, this beautiful sort of sacred technology that's going on from the soul when it's communicating with other souls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that is just brilliant in so many ways. And one of the ways that I'm really tapping into right now is that today's music in many realms are created as distraction for distracted people, and not utilized or created in the, with the specific intention that you have exemplified here. And for that, I'm like super grateful. I'm like, where can I find an album? Like now. Amazing. Amira, I see you nodding. And, again, we're going back to this, ancestral talk here, sound, rhythm, vibration, which we explored a bit yesterday. How is this landing on you?
So I am in a complete agreement with what everybody is saying. I think it resonates a lot with what I was thinking in regards to like the tools we use, the instruments we use, the music that comes out of us. And I think because of the state of where we are in humanity, we are tapping into that consciousness. So a lot of these things, we're using them as tools to connect with the source. But it's important to realize that although in our society we might have these modern distractions, there is still civilizations around the world that are still very much connected to source. And they don't necessarily use modern or have these modern technologies as a distraction. They've learned to work with the technology, and the technology is not replacing the work that they were doing before, like we have done. So it says a lot more about our society than it says anything about like consciousness. So when we think about, and I think Luca was mentioning this, when we think about like phones were created as like a replacement to our abilities to do telepathy, telekinesis, right? And all these things. It is just a mirror of our abilities that we can do naturally. But somebody was connected to source. Somebody said that modern day man created this idea, but in order for us to get these ideas, they're coming from somewhere. They're coming from source. So somebody is tapping into this, and we're not giving source credit. We're not giving like the divine being credit. We're saying, oh, I created this and I'm going to make money off of that. And that's our number one problem right now, is that there's some greedy people, and there's some people that want to have the power and control over all the others of us that are probably not tapping into that frequency of creation, like Paul was saying, because we all have the ability to create. And when we realize that when we create, it's not the product that shows our connection, it's a process of creating the product. So it is the making of the music that makes us, connected to source. We are receiving the vibration and the sounds that we're meant to put out. It's not the final product, it's the process. And that's our constant, the ability to constantly connect. And as a capitalistic society, we've lost track of the process. We just want to produce and we want to sell. And it's kind of like our selfish egos continuously reminding us of like, oh no, we have to, this is how you show whether you're effective or not, whether you have a place in this world or not. And something else I wanted to say was that we have this idea that our modern technology is meant to make our lives easier. But what it's doing, it is distracting us from really tapping into ourselves and really tapping into our ability to really understand navigation. Like, how many of us can leave our houses without putting Google? And it's really sad because we come from people that know how to navigate, right? We were able to see the stars and say, like, this is north, this is south, like, I know where I'm going. Now we have to be like, to go around the block, we have to put in the address and be like, okay, this is where I'm going. And it's just, we're not relying on ourselves. We're not relying on our spirits. We're relying on a device. The device or the thing is becoming our God. And we have a disconnection. So I love that there's a huge awakening of like, no, let's use these tools, let's use crystals, let's use herbs to remind ourselves to tap into that DNA in our body that reminds us of like, I come from people that know how to do this. so I can disconnect myself from Google Maps and be like, okay, what looks familiar? What smells familiar? What sounds familiar? And like just understand how to navigate within our own selves and our own bodies.
Dell's blown away. Me too. Thank you, Allison. This sounds like the conversation that we were having earlier a little bit.
I was almost going to say I'll just leave the floor open for anyone else, because this is so much what we were just talking about before. I was on the panel before, and to me, as you were speaking, I was just kind of seeing, and I think Kelsey said earlier, she said if technology went down, it'd be great. And I've kind of been in that, somewhat that mind frame too, apart from but I do want to talk to my kids. It's like anything else, fine, but I would still want to be, and then I'm like, no, it would be fine. And a few weeks ago, I had a friend, big conspiracies, but whatever, she's like, get ready, everything's going to crash for 3 days. And my first words were, great. Yeah, we need to like go in even more. But the beautiful thing I'm hearing is like, I totally agree, technology has done all this, but yet through consciousness, we wouldn't be having these beautiful platforms if we didn't have this, right? And I know we touched on that before, but just globally. So it's the yin and the yang. There is so much detriment. It can be taking away our creativity, but it can be producing more creativity. It can be, a platform for that. People that, hopefully there's people sitting at home that are kind of bored and they've never taken up music. So they're YouTubing. My son is like, he didn't finish school and he's YouTubing. He just did my website. He's YouTubing everything. He's just started his own company. He's YouTubing how to build houses. He's just building houses pretty much all through YouTube, And there's a part that can sadden me is I wish he had a male mentor because his father's not present. And, the teaching those things, the old school, how it used to be, and I still believe should be. And I believe we're going to come back to that. But in the meantime, there is an incredible beauty. And I am so the least techie person, one of them you've met. So for me, even doing this is huge. This is my stepping out. But it's that flow, it's that balance. I think Kevin was talking about that earlier. And it's always just not throwing it all out, the baby out with the bathwater. But it's really embracing the gifts of this. I mean, Paul, I've just started listening to your music. I didn't know you before, but oh my gosh.
Thank you.
What a download. And I know you've gone through some incredible pain, and I can feel that in your music and your mood. To me, it's like out of our greatest pains and fears and hardships can come such incredible, beautiful blessings. And I feel that in your music. So there's, I'm probably getting off point, but I'm not, because I'm talking to your heart, but it's the yin and the yang, and there's so much beauty in this technology. And like the young lady said before, it was downloaded and it is here. And this is about its evolution. Before we're talking about in the Amazon and the tribes are getting, wearing rubber boots and it's been taken from the trees and all these things. And that grieves me, but it's like, this is about evolving. That is a part of us evolving, even with the hardships in it and the grievances and the things that seem so wrong. And I think our life has to be about learning how to navigate it with more technology, with all these beautiful things, and going back to, I have no doubt, I've been to the Mayan ruins and like, how did this didn't happen just,
I feel like I want to say something to this point, because I want to sort of focus on some positive from this as well, just to take that and amplify it. So let's just go through where everybody is right now. So I'm in London, Ontario, Canada. Kai, where are you?
We're in New Jersey.
Okay, so USA.
Yeah.
And keep going on.
Let's go. Gabo, where are you?
New York.
New York.
Beautiful.
U.S.
Kelsey.
I'm in Maine in the U.S.
Amazing.
Wonderful. Awesome.
Amira.
I'm in Delaware in the U.S.
Awesome. Anson.
Oh, she's muted. Oh, there she is.
I'm in Cairo, Egypt.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I feel like my connection is so unstable.
We do hear you.
Amazing. I think that just says so much too, because I think what's really cool is that we're living in a time where we can connect with people from all over the world, and we can share these. It's so interesting. You brought up Egypt. I was just there. And I wasn't going to put these in so I have a little pyramidal sort of altar here with candles. And I decided from my heart before even connecting that I needed the Egyptian pyramids that I just got while I was in Egypt. And I just think it's cool because the world is connecting right now. And that's really, I think, what this whole shift is about, is connecting with each other. And I'm amazed at what's possible when we use technology for, I think, just good intentions, because that just starts to bloom beautiful, beautiful experiences for everyone. So very cool. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I wanted to jump in real quick and say one thing. I know we're going to pass it to Ansan soon, but I just also feel like, because even though I said if technology were to go away, I would be fine, but also I'm super appreciative for it, and as it is a gift of spirit, I'm grateful we're here now. Also, the Egypt connection, like I went to the Amazon first, and then I went to southern Brazil, like working with indigenous elders, and I was having this vision of like Egypt 2020, and then one of my best friends who I work with through virtual technology, creating new economy for the world, she's living in Egypt now, and another one of my best friends who we do a sacred economy with, she is moving to Egypt, and now here you are in Egypt, and you have your pyramid altar, and we're talking like this bridge of ancient technology and where we are right now in this moment, and these messages that are coming through, these prophecies that are alive, and it's all connected, it's all part of it. So I mean, I'm super benefiting and contributing through technology, so I'm very grateful for it, and I see it is such a catalyst for what the world needs today. We are stepping deeper inside of ourselves and also inside of the realm of technology to bridge these dimensions, the physical and the metaphysical, and all of these different spaces of consciousness as we are expanding into them and through them. So I just beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, we have you, Ansan. Ansan gave a great talk this morning about inner technology. How do you see that relating to the conversation so far, especially to what it is that you bring to the table?
Well, I resonate with a lot of what everybody said around how we work with the elements and how we see that we are the elements, right? But I actually wanted to offer another angle as well, because what we see in modern day technology nowadays is VR and holograms, and we start to see like we can call with our telephones throughout buildings. And I'm more and more starting to realize now that these are actually reflections of the capacities that we carry inside. So we may have forgotten those capacities, and the technology is replacing, our current modern day technology is almost replacing those capacities. But I strongly do believe, though I'm still practicing all of that myself, of course, that we have the capacity to be fully telepathic. So to be able to read each other's thoughts, you know, that we're able to also actually holographically project through our third eye and through our vision. And ultimately, speaking about inner technology, I really feel that our feelings, and I spoke about this morning, our ability to feel and to work with our emotional energy through intention, through emotional release, through forgiveness, is our immediate direct connection to divine grace. And I myself, I'm a healing practitioner, and I'm seeing that so often, you know, in all my sessions, that people use the inner technology of their own conscious awareness, but it's not just on the mental plane. It's a completely holistic capacity to work with and the body and the emotional energy and with the thoughts, and ultimately to bring that back to a place, to unity consciousness. And that is, it's just, that for me is like, that has always been there, you know. So I would almost call it like timeless technology. It's like eternal, right? So this is a perspective that I like to offer. I'm just wondering, are you hearing me? Because everybody looks a bit frozen.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so I was like, am I talking to like a flat screen? Okay, I hope you heard what I said.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. And then maybe one final point about the pyramids. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I'm in Egypt and I can see, like, it's interesting. I just had a conversation with an Egyptian friend of mine, and he said to me, like, but the ancient alchemists, the original alchemists, they didn't make a distinction between science and spirit, and spirituality and science were not separate. So how they accessed knowledge was through consciousness, was through meditation, through listening, through their intuition, through their feelings. And I think just through the Enlightenment, we've started to separate those two realms so artificially, right? To the extent that nowadays technology has become a device that disconnects us from our body and from each other sometimes, and from our feelings. But I do really strongly believe that we can co-create and innovate a technology that actually upgrades our nervous system and that actually is healthy for us, that can work with high elevation frequencies, that can actually mirror our consciousness to show us our limitations, so that actually we can actually invent healing technology. So that we can also use our bodies with, you know, instead of sitting behind a laptop and getting drained because we sit so much. So this is really the future that I'm foreseeing and that I believe in.
Absolutely. Can I piggyback on everybody here?
Please.
So one thing that's coming to mind is that I feel like we became pets of our pets, and I'll explain that. We created technology, even though it was granted, you know, by higher dimensional beings to us, you know, in the last century, early last century, right? So we created this technology at the point where we had no idea as a society, as a modern society, that we were the technology. And when you see that we have been emulating the same thing we are, when you analyze a computer, it's the same thing, the processor, you know, the RAM memory, you know, the motherboard, everything has a connection, you know, just like us. And the projection, like Anson was saying, like this holographic reality that we're so intent on creating is the universe. The universe is a holographic projection of the creator. Everything is just a fractal of, you know, the one photon that created this whole universe. So in a way, with this technology, we're trying to recreate what has been created already. It's a mini universe. So technology itself is a gift for us because it's like our pet. We created it, but we are the masters of this technology. And because of our disconnection that everybody has been talking about, is that we believe that our pet is going to give us the answers now. You know, it's going to give us the way of living. It's going to give us the answers. And that's why now there is this idea, and if you look at it, you know, on the internet, everybody, not everybody, thankfully, but a lot of people are advocating this the AI, artificial intelligence, with the idea that it's going to solve our problems because we're too dumb as a race, you know, as humanity, you know, to solve our problems. So it's because we have been disconnected from the higher intelligence, which is our consciousness, to solve our problems. So now we create computers and think, like, you know, the others were saying, telepathy is the same thing. It's true, you know, as the phones, because we have been in a dark era where our consciousness has not been, you know, accessible to us in the way that it should be. And we are recreating everything that we want. So technology in a way is reflecting what we're missing. But one thing that's very important before I finish this point is that we are limitless, whereas technology is limited. And I'll tell you one way. Technology can only operate at the speed of light. We are quantum physics. We operate all around the universe. And that's a limitation that AI has around the universe, that it can only travel at the speed of light, where we can travel instantaneously at any part of the universe. And we have forgotten this. This may sound like magic. This may sound like something, out of a book, but it's the truth. And this is what the quantum field of energy is telling us all the time, that we are everything. Everything in the universe is us, and we can access it at any time as long as we tap in the right frequency.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, hope that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So thinking about that, I love the shift that Paul was making here. Yes, there's a lot that we could focus on, in terms of the distractions, and there's this beautiful positivity, that comes about when we start to think about what we have access to now. And I'm so curious, how are a lot of us here on this, I could say all of us here are healers, how are you integrating these technologies into your healing practice? And please, anyone, feel free to comment.
I'm going to just talk about something that I think is just a good important piece to focus on. I think spiritual practice right now is kind of where we sort of need to move into. I see a lot of people waking up all over the world. I think that's the time that we're living in. I think these times have been predicted for a very long time, thousands and thousands of years. So for me, what I see every day more and more is these ascension cycles start sort of spinning faster and faster as people integrate into spiritual practice. And you can start to see the New Age movement. I mean, it was back, 50s, 60s it started, and we've become so more aware of what's going on collectively. Our world is now connected through technology, and our technologies inside of us are being remembered. Our sacred technology are sort of matching and mirroring the outside world much faster. So for me, I think spiritual practice, I always like to talk about the 2 points in the day, the beginning of the day when you first wake up into consciousness, and the end of the day when you go to sleep. And there's this alchemy that's in that first part of the morning. If you lay there and just wiggle in that space and start to bring in some divine love or some divine frequency, something starts to happen. And this has been my experience. I would imagine most of you here have that sort of space in the morning, and then also too at the end of the day when you sort of close the day. So I think that these two spaces, just to play with them and expand them a little bit, for anyone that's watching this, I think if you're not aware of that, that's something that I would suggest to start to play with. And I think these spiritual practices that start reminding you that you actually have really, quite frankly, a lot of power within you. And I think when you start to sort of, I think as above, so below, and as within, so without, that sort of understanding. But then also too, the thing that I've sort of started to focus on is these two round orbs that are basically above and below and above, and bringing the highest self, your most highest self, into the now in every moment that you can, and amplifying that outward. And I think that this technology that we have in this process of spiritual practice, where we are one with all that is, and all is well, and all shall be well, those reminders are so powerful for basically anyone tapping into this that will watch this now or in the future. Because I think that we need to start understanding that we are the divine technology. So I just wanted to say that in this sort of discussion, in some spiritual practices. So maybe somebody else on this could share their spiritual practice. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I could share a little bit. I am working a lot with a technology called Life Alignment. I've gotten trained in it about 3 years ago, and I've integrated also my own intuitive practices into this technology, into this methodology, we could call it. But what is beautiful is that we work with divination. And I know that sounds pretty woo-woo, but it's simply pendulum work. And every time consistently, it doesn't matter with who I work. I don't even have to know the person. I don't even have to have spoken to the person extensively before. But every time, everything I pendle is spot on. It's always accurate. And it's and I've wondered myself, where do I access this knowledge from? And it's almost as though, because we invoke to be guided by the larger intelligent field, or you could call that the soul's energy, or maybe physically speaking, the biofields, the energetic biofield, all the information is present. And it's just marvelous to every time again see that it's so spot on, and that I'm completely guided. So it's not me, my ego, Ansan, guiding the session. And then we integrate elements into it. So we do even astrological alignments with planets. So planets like Venus, Mars, they have a certain frequency, or they symbolize certain characteristics. So the moment that planet comes up as a priority to be harmonized, it's basically just an invitation to see, okay, the planet Jupiter stands for abundance and adventure. Why do you think this is coming up for you? Because clearly you haven't integrated there is something not fully in balance there in your life with adventure and abundance. So it's just beautiful to see how that every time clicks and resonates with people. And if then on top of that, I sometimes do that, really integrate that practice with meditational practice, visualization, pressure points, attunement of the body. It's just phenomenal. It's so like, I've only started practicing this because it was so effective for my personal life, and it just opened up so much grace for me in my life, and remembrance of unconditional love, but an actual palpable experience, right? So not from the head, but actually feeling held in a bath of unconditional love. And if you do that consistently over and over again, the nervous system calms down, the cellular memory starts to regenerate, and I'm like radiating my essence like 100 times more than 5 years ago. So yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
I love that. Thank you so much for the question, and then also that response. Just everything you all have said has just been very activating for me, and I can give you an insight into my spiritual practice. And I love what you said, Paul, about having the morning and the evening, like that, those liminal states, those in between, like walking between two worlds of the conscious awakened state and then the subconscious dream realm, and just in those middle spaces where we really are so pure, intentionally tapping into source consciousness. I love that so much. And so I would say, like, my spiritual practice, which in essence my intention is that it is in every moment. There is no in between. Like, my rituals are my spiritual practice embodied, but also every moment it's pure awareness, like conscious awareness of an interconnected relationship with all things, and gratitude and love as a spiritual practice. And then where tools come into place in my inner work, I would use the word alchemy, like inner alchemy. I've learned a lot from Taoist teachings, tantric teachings, yogic teachings, mirrored in nature, but really using my own self. I love how you also said divination, because the way that I listened to the universe in any moment is that it's all a divination. Like, anything that is being communicated to me or in my perception is a message for me. So constantly in the space of receiving and listening and attuning within. So I use my own body as a tuning rod, or as, a pendulum, that when I start to feel out of my center or going into a space that maybe is not in my purest form of vitality and ease, then the inner alchemy begins. And that's working with breath and bandhas and releasing and engaging, and just all of this inner alchemy in the awareness of the inner self and the thought space and the heart space, but coming back to a homeostasis of the myself, and so that I can then be a clear channel to listen and receive again, because that's kind of what it is. It's like listen, receive, and then if something takes me off my center, come back to center, and then again listen and receive. And this is like the alchemy of my spiritual practice, is a conversation with the universe allowing all to be as it is, and then holding a profound space within myself for that which is outside to be witnessed by me and alchemized into love. So that's really my spiritual practice. Thank you for letting me share that.
Absolutely. So, your spiritual practice has grown quite a bit. From where you've started until where you are right now, the amount of time that you sit in silence has been profound. Would you like to share about that?
I wouldn't say the spiritual practice has grown, but I have grown. That allowed my spiritual practice to grow as a mirror. And yeah, like Kelsey mentioned, like what comes up, allowing it to come up, not trying to judge it. And I got this from a spiritual teacher, Kyle Cease, who's a comedian that got awakened. But the practice of what he says is to sit in silence and allow whatever comes up to come up. And the way he explained it, it resonated with me because he said, what if whatever comes up is coming up because the universe wants to help you to heal it and release it and give it to it? And just be able to sit in silence. Now I do it for about 4 hours a day. And wow, because once like the monkey mind, or what they say, like stops the chatter and everything, but I let it chatter and just know that I'm just observing that. But then once that silence happens, that's when like the profound information comes in, and it's like I'm just connected to the universe, sort of like having a cell phone. I'm having a phone conversation directly to the universe, and I'm connected to it. But now I'm excited to incorporate all these new teachings that I've gotten from, of course, the summit, all these different ways of connecting, breathing, going into the heart. I'm excited. but yeah, my practice of sitting in silence, it just gives me so much information for what to do next by just being still and knowing that I'm being guided.
Got it.
How's your practice? Thought you was going to get this deflected, huh?
I feel like my practice has been to not know, to really be in the space of not knowing, and that's where my inquisitiveness comes from, and that's where my curiosity comes from, that's where my ability to listen comes from, and that has really served me, for as long as I've been doing it. It's led me to many different places across the country and across the world. And I feel like it's been a big, I call it a hide and seek practice with the universe. Because
that's funny.
I get into the not knowing, and then the universe pops up and says, hey, over here. And then I follow and I go over there. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's next, but I trust. And I trust, and universe shows up, and I follow again. So it's been one big peekaboo game that's been really thrilling and exciting, and has really become my lifestyle.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Right.
Can I just say, it's just real brief, but just with all this, I kind of keep hearing the word intuition. We talk about old technologies or all this stuff, but ultimately we're born into this planet with, and it doesn't sound strong enough almost, but that intuition that today we've, a lot of the culture is kind of taken away. We've surrendered it. It's not taken away. No one can take away from you unless you surrender it. So we've surrendered it and not listened to it. And I know in my life, there's been some crucial times when I had that intuition that was so there as a mother that I didn't listen, and I paid such a high price. My kids paid a high price. And for me now, I'm older and my kids are grown, but it's my other children, but it's so more relevant to me and sacred now. And I hear that more and more. It's like, you've got your intuition, you've got that knowing. Each one of us has that for whatever, and especially today when there's so many different things being thrown at us, you know, even in the spiritual realm and even in evolving. And like I was saying earlier on, all the things that are coming out right now, people offering, and there's so many beautiful things that are coming out, you know, on the internet. Take this course, take this. And so, but it's really for me, it's been to really find my intuition and say, which one is right for me right now? It's not that the others are wrong, but it's for me and where I'm sitting right now, what is my course, my journey right now. So I just encourage us to keep listening to our intuition.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I hear that. I feel like that's the intuition, divination with the universe. It's the same thing, you know, like at present moment divination is the intuition.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about the power of silence, you know, and really allowing that to fill our presence and fill our being, and how the silence, you know, no words, tends to be the most informative part of the conversation. So I'm okay with allowing a bit of silence because we have created and generated quite a bit of energy here. So to allow that to integrate is an honor. And it's 555.
Yeah, I know. The exhale.
To me, that just has divinity all over it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving permission for that, though. It's so beautiful, even in that silence. It's so beautiful, especially you're hosting this. There's got to be a certain amount of, you know, responsibility, pressure, and you can just come under that. So thank you for this moment.
Absolutely. I think that today's talks have been so filled with heart consciousness that I just don't perceive the silence the same way that I did even at the beginning of this day. Each moment is a gift, no matter what it's filled with. Even with the nothingness, which is actually not nothing at all. Yeah. Amazing. And it is about that time for us to transition into our next beautiful segment. I appreciate deeply the conversations that we've been able to engage in together. Yesterday we were talking about how the name of the summit is Soul Evolution Summit, and at one point during this journey I was like, okay, well, you know, what do we do to evolve? And it's like, well, hello, we are evolving. So my deep reverence, one of my practices is also to leave an empty chair for the teachers who are with us but not seen. And I feel that there are quite a number of them here today. So I appreciate all of you who are here with us, seen, participating. Those who are watching and listening, thank you for deepening our learnings and our consciousness. And thank you to the omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Take care, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you again, Kai, Bill.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all, guys.
Most welcome.
Much love.
Thank you so much. Much love.